Back now, it's been almost 3 years since the world woke up to the news that 3-year-old Madeleine McCann had been abducted from her family's apartment in the Portuguese resort of Praia da Luz. Her parents Kate and Gerry have fought tirelessly to keep the search for Madeleine in the public eye. They join me now. 3 years, I can't believe it's been 3 years already. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
I know, it's incredible really. It doesn't feel like 3 years to me, for sure.
The last year in particular has gone particularly quickly.
I know, and I just wondered if you in any way can have any sort of normal life, you know, three years on. Can you? Does it must always, it's just always there, isn't it? Always in the forefront of your mind. I
mean, it is always there, and obviously Madeleine's in our life every day, but we do have, you know, periods of normality. In fact, I'd say it's just changed in that it's a different kind of normality now. I mean, we still have, Gerry obviously works full time. You know, we still have to do the cooking and washing. We've got Sean and Emily, and we have lots of time with them, you know, and we go on trips. They go swimming, you know.
So you're able to do the sort of normal family things. You know, you have gone back to work, as you've said, but there almost is this thing that sometimes you feel almost guilty about enjoying yourself sometimes, you know, or laughing or having fun with the twins. You know, do you sometimes feel like that?
No, definitely. I think sometimes you can be having a really good time and suddenly you realise it's actually tinged because it'll just suddenly stop you. And you know, we had a lovely day last week, and you know, it was really sunny, and you know, you can smell the grass and it's being cut, and I thought, oh, it's really nice, and then it just kind of gets you. You know, Madeleine's still not here.
And you going back to work, was that difficult for you? Did you sense people's awkwardness around you, or did that dissipate quite quickly?
It was a little bit awkward at the beginning, but at that time, I think I found it much easier when I'm mentally active in doing things, both from a campaign point of view and work-wise as well. And it was actually difficult when we were at Guido and there wasn't so much happening. You felt you almost had your hands tied behind your back somewhat. So it was definitely the right decision for me to go back. I went back part-time and then built up and full-time. And to be honest, most people are just really glad to see me, and most of the patients initially have been quite reserved or just left messages with the staff. But it was awkward in those early months when I went back and I was doing ward rounds, and quite often there would be Madeleine on the front page in newspapers or ourselves and various other things. So that was a little bit awkward, but generally it's not been a problem.
Because it's sometimes difficult, people don't really know what to say to you. You know, there's that sense of awkwardness that they're not quite sure. You know, they want to say how sorry they are, or they're thinking of you, but they don't quite know how to broach the subject. It's quite difficult. I
think it is difficult, and I think it depends on the person really. Some people feel comfortable coming and asking you how it's going. Other people are just kind of tap you on the arm and say thinking of you. And other people just feel that maybe they shouldn't invade your privacy.
But does it help when people?
It does. I mean, I've said all along, really, it actually makes me feel better when people acknowledge Madeleine, essentially.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's very important as well that a lot of times people want to skip around it, don't know when to mention it or not, and of course we live with this every day of our life, and it's a huge part of it, and that even applies to friends and people as well who you haven't seen for a while, and obviously we spend so much of our time outside, particularly when the kids are in bed, actually thinking about ways how we can improve the search and keep it going.
Because that's really what this is all about, and the search has to keep going. What sort of stage is the investigation at, or what sort of stage is the campaign at right now?
From an investigation point of view, I think it's very important to say that from law enforcement, they're not doing anything actively and haven't been for a long time, and that's incredibly frustrating. So we've had our small team working away in the background. And in terms of new leads, I think we put out most of the important information that we had this time last year. We had a very good response, and most of those leads have been worked probably as much as we can with Dave and his team. So at this point, what we're really trying to do is to get the governments to review everything, and it's very difficult because there's a lot of information held in with British police, there's a lot in Portugal. It's not all in one file. With other information we've got, we're happy to make available, but there hasn't been a comprehensive review. There hasn't been anything about which lines of inquiry merit further investigation, and that's something we just feel is fundamental and should happen. And it's not right that an innocent, vulnerable British citizen is essentially given up on. And I don't think it's right that as parents that we have to drive the search. Of course we will, but not everyone has had the same resources and support that we've had to be able to do that, and I think it's pretty poor.
Very frustrating for both of you. And another aspect of it is the kind of criticism that you've come in for as well. There's been a lot of that, and that must be very, very difficult to deal with. I mean, you got a lot at the start about the fact that you'd left the kids and you'd gone off and had a meal, and all of that had happened. And then, even to this day, there are people who are convinced that you had something to do with it. How on earth do you deal with that?
I think it's changed. Certainly we don't get the same level of criticism that we did, and even then, to be fair, it was the minority really. I think most people, even if they don't agree with what we did, then they wouldn't feel it right or fair to add to our suffering.
Because it does, doesn't it? It does add to your suffering.
Absolutely, and particularly in the early weeks and months, I wasn't expecting it, because all I could see was, our daughter's been taken and she's been subjected to something terrifying, and that was the most important thing. So for people to start, shouting at us, when really we needed to keep the focus on Madeleine.
Absolutely.
But having said that, I think there's just a small minority now, and there's a certain group out there who this is their job really, is to pick on a vulnerable family, and I'm sure after us they'll move on to another family. And
it's very interesting. I think anyone who's in the public eye for whatever reason gets criticised, and early on when we were campaigning, you would say, oh my